in this episode, I want to talk to you about the narcissist and addictions. Now, many of you know from watching all my other episodes that I talk a lot about internal family systems, which is an evidence-based parts therapy. So I look at many other traits that we have, maybe in a different way to many other people do, because I look at them as they are a protector part of us. That might seem really strange when we start to talk about addiction. How can addiction be a protector part? And I want to talk about addiction today because I'm sure many of you who are dealing with a narcissist also see that the narcissist will have addiction tendencies as well. Now, that addiction could be porn, it could be sex, it could be exercise, drugs, alcohol, it could be any number of things. And I want to explain to you why that happens for a narcissist, in the hope that when I explain this, you start to see why a narcissist is the way that they are. And it lifts that shame and guilt from yourself, recognizing, they're not actually treating me like that because of me, because I'm not good enough, or I'm unworthy, or I'm unlovable. They're treating me like this because of their stuff. Now, when we think about internal family systems, remember, we all have that sense of self. We all have that true self. It's the essence of who we all are. It's not something that's created or passed down to us. It's just who we are. And it's somebody who is compassionate and curious, connected, confident, living with clarity. And I just want you to stop for a moment and think, how much of your life are you living actually as your true self? Because I know for literally probably most of my life, I wasn't living as my true self. I had lots of protector parts showing up. Now, when we have our true self, that's really how we want to be living our life. But what happens is usually in our childhood, we start to get these, what we call wounds being created. So we start to interpret other people's behavior, and that starts to create what I call a self-worthiness wound, or in internal family systems, we call that an exile, a stuck, wounded younger part of ourselves. And again, I'll give you an example. When I was younger and I used to do my gymnastics in the lounge, and I'd get 9.99 recurring off my father, which we can laugh about as adults. But as that child who thought she'd done it perfectly, getting a 9.99, to me, my interpretation was, I mustn't be good enough. There must be something wrong with me. I'm going to do it again. Because it was aggravating and activating a self-worthiness wound in myself of, I'm not good enough. Now, what happens then, remember, you're yourself when you come into the world, just the essence of who we are. We then get these self-worthiness wounds being created, called the exile in an internal family system, this stuck, wounded younger part. And the brain kind of goes in that scenario, don't ever want to feel like this again. This is really, really painful. So up pop all of these protector parts. Now, for me, those protector parts were people-pleasing, high-achieving, perfectionism. Because if I was all of those, then surely everyone would have to behave in a certain way, and it wouldn't activate my self-worthiness wound of not feeling good enough. Now, if we flip this now to the narcissist, narcissists aren't born this way, okay? They're not. What happens is they also have a true self. And in their childhood, for whatever reason, they start to interpret, just like we did, other people's behavior in a certain way, and those wounds are formed. Now, we don't know yet, as this video is going out there, why that happens, but a narcissist, when they create those self-worthiness wounds, the protector parts that then come up for a narcissist to not feel that self-worthiness wound become so strong in a narcissist system that we can never get beyond to work on that sense of self. That doesn't mean I wouldn't love to work with narcissists with their protector parts to then go on and heal their self-worthiness wounds. I would love to do that. But as yet, there is no research to suggest that we can do that. And ultimately, for someone to even work on that, they have to acknowledge that there's something wrong to go and get it worked on. And I'm sure you guys all know that a narcissist always thinks their behavior is never because of them, it's because of you or somebody else. That's why I'm behaving like this, because if you weren't like that, then I wouldn't need to be like this. And that's why they show up like that. So that is the problem. So I almost feel like the narcissist has these self-worthiness wounds, and the label we give to the protector parts of that individual is narcissist, because they're very abusive protector parts. but all with the intention of trying to protect the narcissist from feeling what the individual system perceives to be the most pain. And it really, really gets stuck. Now, one of those protector parts, and you may well get the wrath of those protector parts, the absolute impact of that could be anger. It could be aggression. It might be cheating. It could be many things. But one of them could also be addiction, because the addiction for the narcissist is a protector part for the narcissist to distract and soothe away from feeling the pain of the narcissist's self-worthiness wound. You know, when we talk about any type of addiction, it's never about the substance. It's never about the thing. It's always about what the addiction is trying to distract and soothe away from that individual from feeling. And you know what? Drugs, what a great distraction. You know, if I'm numbing out and I'm on drugs, then that's a brilliant distraction away from feeling my self-worthiness wound of feeling absolutely worthless as a 4-year-old kid. You know, the system kind of goes, which is the most painful? Worthless as a 4-year-old, on drugs. Okay, yeah, worst feeling as a 4-year-old, feeling rubbish, not good enough. So yeah, drugs, still painful, still destructive, but it still distracts and soothes away from what that system, the individual system, the narcissist system, feels like would be even more painful. So when we start to understand all of this, if you are with someone and they're a narcissist and they've got an addiction, it's highly unlikely that they're going to break that addiction. And the reason being is, if that addiction went, what's the alternative? The alternative is for a narcissist to sit in their self-worthiness wounds. That will never, never happen with a narcissist. Now, this is the key. When you have somebody who then goes into rehab, for instance, and breaks, obviously cold turkey, coming off some drugs or whatever it is, alcohol, all you're doing for that individual is you're not actually breaking the addiction protector part. What would happen is that protector part in that individual system will think, well, okay, I'm not going to have that right now as the role in this person's system. I'll do that instead. So you can often find somebody who, say, breaks an addiction to alcohol. They might then go and get addicted to exercise, get addicted to shopping, whatever that is. The system needs the role of that protector part in whatever format. So just because you're working on a particular substance in this scenario doesn't mean that the role of that protector part is going to go away. It's always going to be there because it's always trying to protect from feeling the pain of that self-worthiness wound, which is why with a narcissist, because we can never work on the pain of that self-worthiness wound, it's always going to be there. If it was somebody else who was an addict, for instance, then yes, we could work on the role of that protector part with the addiction, whatever it is, but we would then go on and we need to work on that self-worthiness wound. Because if we work on the root cause, the self-worthiness wound, and really help heal that self-worthiness wound, then there wouldn't necessarily need to be a protector part protecting the wound that is no longer there. Because remember, the addiction protector part is trying to distract and soothe away from the wound. If the wound isn't there, or there's a really deep understanding within our body, that protector part doesn't need to have that role to distract away from something that is no longer there. So the reason why I wanted to talk to you about narcissists and addictions is because I get lots of messages where people will say to me that it's because they're an addict, and maybe if they weren't addicted to such and such, maybe they're not a narcissist. And as we start to talk through their behaviors, it's very clear that this person is a narcissist, but addiction is just one of many protector parts for a narcissist. When I teach in my narcissistic trauma-informed coaching certification, I teach over 35 traits or protector parts, as I teach within the coaching certification, that a narcissist has. So it's really important to recognize, as much as I know many of you want to help and you want to heal your relationships, whether it be with parents or partners, there is no evidence to suggest right now that this can happen. There is medication out there that can help support a narcissist, but it doesn't mean they will go on and have a healthy relationship either. So I want you to be real about all of this, but I want to be kind to you and really support you in what you can do, not in what you think you can do to try and change a situation, because you can't change anybody. They need to want to change. Therein lies the problem with a narcissist. So I hope that really helps if you do have a partner, a parent, or somebody you know that you're kind of thinking, maybe it's just the addiction. Check in with that. It may well be, maybe it is. But if there are lots of other traits there, go and watch my videos on YouTube, listen to my podcast. You will start to get to know. I've even got a quiz. I've even got a quiz for you to see whether or not you are dealing with a narcissist. And then think about the addiction as a protector part, and think about all the other things, how a narcissist behaves, not necessarily as a trait. Think about it as a protector part, all distracting and soothing away. That's why if you do something and they react in a certain way, it's because you're triggering their self-worthiness wound, and their protector part in their system goes woof, comes straight up, and that's when they project to you. The issue being is, how do you receive their projection of that, trying to keep their wound safe? How do you receive that? Because if you're receiving it then as, it's because of me, then that's where we perpetuate that trauma. That's when we then start to feel the way that we do. So I hope that helps. Let me know if you have a narcissist in your life. Let me know if there's any addictions there with regards to that, because it is definitely something that is very prevalent within the narcissistic world. A narcissist very often will have some form of addiction, and the thrill, the distraction, the soothing away from their self-worthiness wounds.